often do you feel stressed? And do you think that stress is a good thing or a bad thing? Today we're going to take a look at stress and health and the relationship between the two, and different theories about stress and how we should deal with it. Stress research is a part of a broader category in psychology known as health psychology that focuses on how biological, social, and psychological factors influence both health and the development of different illnesses. Stress, of course, being something that can influence our physical health and our psychological well-being. We know that there's a relationship between stress and hypertension, for example, that high blood pressure that can come as a result of being chronically stressed. And that stress might come as a result of stressors, of things that are happening in our environment that trigger that stress. And of course, stress can also lead to things like immune suppression, which makes it more likely for us to get sick as a result of stress. So the relationship between stress and health is very important and something that we should pay attention to. Now, stress is not always necessarily a bad thing, even though that is how we normally look at it. Psychologists refer to the different types of stress as eustress and distress. Eustress is that motivating type of stress. Sometimes we need a little bit of adrenaline to, let's say, help us reach a deadline or be more productive or adapt to a challenge that we're facing. But also stress, especially chronic stress, can be detrimental. And that's where we can see the physical and psychological problems that develop. For example, ACEs, as we mentioned before, those adverse childhood experiences from the development unit, can have an effect on our physical health as well as our psychological well-being. One of the most popular theories about what happens to us when we're stressed is called the general adaptation syndrome, and this was introduced by psychologist Hans Selye. In this theory, there are 3 stages to the stress response. In phase 1, we have alarm, and that is when we are alerted to the stress or stressor that we are going to be facing. Phase 2 is the resistance phase, and this is where we are activated, where we are actually fighting back against that stress. So this is whatever action we are taking to deal with the stress that we are facing. Now, if this is short-lived, in the case of meeting a deadline, for example, that resistance is what is allowing us to get our work done so that we can rest and relax afterwards. But in the case of chronic stress, that resistance can go on for an extended period of time. And if we don't get some kind of relief from the stress during that time, that's what leads to phase 3, which is exhaustion. Eventually, our body is going to run out of resources, and once those resources are depleted, we are more susceptible to those illnesses that we talked about before. There are also 2 different theories about how we respond to stress. One is referred to as fight or flight, and the other is called tend and befriend. The fight or flight response is actually fight, flight, or freeze, and some psychologists go so far as to say it's fight, flight, freeze, or fawn. But it is our body's automatic physiological response to a stressor, and different people are going to respond in different ways. Some people will prepare to mobilize to fight back, some are going to flee, some freeze, and in this newer area of research of fawn, in the case of that stressor being another person, it's essentially giving in to the individual to allow that stress to be mitigated. So that's one approach that we have to responding to stress. The other, one that we see more often in females but can be used for anyone, is called the tend or befriend. And this theory says, in addition to fight or flight, individuals can respond to stress by nurturing others and seeking social support. In fact, there have been studies that show that oxytocin is released in times of stress, encouraging us to reach out to others so that we can receive and provide support, and that actually has a whole host of positive benefits as well. And when it comes to coping with stress, there's really 2 different approaches that people can take. One is problem-focused coping, which involves addressing the problem and the stressful situation directly and finding a way to deal with it. Or there's emotion-focused coping that focuses more on the emotional distress caused by the stressful situation and seeing if we can deal with that as well. So stress in some ways is inevitable. There are different ways that we can deal with it and even use it to our advantage at times. So thank you for watching, and as always remember, be kind to your mind.